Good evening, everyone. Again, this is the Constitutional Roundtable with your host, Andrew the Citizen, 1776. And as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the hamster, War Hamster, aka Brady. Actually, which one is it? War Hamster or Brady comes first?
Ah, I don't care what people call me.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was trying to make a funny pun there, but then I kind of ruined it. It's okay. I do that a lot.
Cheers.
But
Cheers. How's your week?
good. I fly out to Nashville Sunday, and then I'll come back home Monday. And then at the end of January, for everybody listening, I have kind of started a new series called The Biblical Record, where if you come on the show, you have to have some kind of evidence or something that points to it, or even if it, I mean, obviously I'm going to accept the Bible, but, even if it's, I don't know, you'll just have to see, but it's a great show.
The way I describe it, from what you've been telling me, it's, you basically go in there and you talk about your strict interpretation of the Bible and have people with alternative theories and kind of, go back and forth between them to see, where there's any meeting in the middle or where there's not. So
yeah, I mean, essentially. So I guess in a way it is kind of me against the guest a little bit, but not really. It's, they have alternate theory and we test the theory. I ask the questions and I see if it's merit or not. If not, we'll go from there and I'll bring it up. I'll be like, well, that doesn't really, so it's trying to get to the bottom of it, but also there's things that are not being taught that are biblically accurate that is considered an alternate theory, even though it's not.
We don't know if Doug's going to be joining us tonight. I spoke with him this morning. We forgot to talk about it. So, he's got the invitation, and I've texted him and called him. So if he shows up and joins us, the more the merrier. And if not, two of us will take it home.
Yeah. Tracy, are you still watching?
Yeah, she is. She just said hello.
Okay, perfect. Do you have a topic you want us to talk about tonight?
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, anyone in the chat, if you want to ask us anything. Couple of the big topic on the table, of course, is the Speaker of the House vote, and I've been able to follow that pretty closely. Kevin McCarthy started out getting 204 votes, and there were about 20 dissenters, and it kept going down to like 203, 202. Well, yesterday we closed out the voting with he only had 200. He was losing support, and we get here this morning.
Matt Gaetz is the biggest one against him, right?
Well, Gaetz he's not gonna flip. Period. He's never gonna vote for McCarthy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's the biggest one against him.
Yeah. Well, if they keep there's 6 now that are holding out. 14 of them from between yesterday and today voted for McCarthy. It's probably a good thing. That means McCarthy's offering deals that they find attractive, which is good for us. Getting Congress try to function a little bit more reasonably. The compromise proposals are all great, and McCarthy's agreed to them. The one thing going on right now is how do you make sure McCarthy keeps his word? And that's one of the big issues on the table is should a single person be able to do a vote of no confidence and have him removed as speaker, which would then take a majority. If McCarthy becomes speaker and he messes up or goes back on his word, Matt Gaetz or someone like that can do a call for a vote of no confidence, and it takes half of the Republican caucus to remove him as speaker. So it becomes much easier to remove him. We're almost better off if you can get that clause put in to the agreement, and that becomes part of the congressional rules. Well, if we don't want McCarthy, we're better off just voting for him now, and then the next day doing a vote of no confidence, because you only have to get half the caucus. As opposed to right now, you got to get 218 votes to get someone else in.
Yeah. Interesting.
The point
Tracy,
being,
Tracy was saying something about the shenanigans going down tonight. Is that what you're talking about?
That's entirely possible. I should probably get the stream up on my other computer. So we can watch that and keep it going in real time. Give me 1 second.
Forgive me eating. I'm starving for whatever reason. Unfortunately, I have something wrong with my body where I have to eat all the time. And actually, it's okay if I put in the extra salt because I don't retain it. So. Looks like she says it's at like 10 p.m. my time.
Okay. Yeah, 7 p.m. Okay. It goes live. That's what I thought. This whole 3-hour difference has got me thrown off all week. Time change stuff. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, that the break they had for the last few hours, we'll see what kind of deals were cut. Yeah. I think no matter what happens, though, this whole week has been fantastic for the country. There's always only been 3 possible outcomes. One is that McCarthy becomes speaker, but he's got to make a bunch of compromises, which are good. That's a good thing. Yeah. 2 is that we get another Republican as a speaker, and that would probably be Jim Jordan. The negative on that, of course, is that would mean he could not chair the House Judiciary Committee, and that's where Durham's report is going to go to. There's a lot of the House Judiciary is going to be the most important committee this year or the next 2 years.
Let's talk about that a little bit. The Durham report. What's going on with that?
Well, nobody knows for sure, but I'll tell you what I do know.
I almost thought it was 17 mislead for a while, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, no, he's real. He always has been. We've known that. In fact, I got one of my most credible sources is a guy by the name of Adam Housley. Used to be a reporter for Fox News. Now he just reports independently. A few years back, he said, "Hey, Durham has been at this since before Trump came down the escalator." And if that's the case, it's pretty interesting. There have been no leaks out of the Durham camp, which means it's a legitimate investigation. The question on the table is he done with prosecutions? Well, we hope not, because there's an awful lot of people that we'd like to see prosecuted. But there's how are you going to get a conviction in a DC jury? That's been proven very difficult, even in Virginia.
Yeah, so it's been like 6 years, right? I mean,
well, officially, when Barr named him special counsel, was just about 3 years ago. So maybe 4 now, because he was supposed to. Yeah, because he would have had supposed to have his report out prior to the 2020 elections, but everything got delayed by COVID.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Let's say he is done with convictions or prosecutions. That's not a good answer, but he still has to deliver a report. Now, that report has to go through Attorney General Merrick Garland. Now,
oh boy.
Garland's got the ability to block it. And Durham's then his only recourse then is he goes straight to the House Judiciary Committee to submit his full report. So it will get out, and there's speculation that he waited to file a report until the Republicans took the House, because it was if the Democrats were leading the House Judiciary, he was going to get buried again. So now, when you start looking at the summation of all the crimes that are probably likely committed around Russiagate, Spygate, I mean, the whole thing's all one giant crime wave, one cover-up after another. Now, whether you tie these all in together or just stick to the stuff that Durham was tasked with investigating, which was the origins of the Russia collusion hoax. Yep. If he just sticks with that, you're still talking about major people in the intelligence agencies, FBI. You've got politicians involved. The whole Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, basically came out with a report 4 years ago that was it's already completely been proven to be rubbish.
Well, here's a question for you. I mean, what are we to expect is in this report? I mean, is it just these specific things, or is there maybe ties to illegal, personal dealings? Like for instance, are we going to find out about maybe what's in the black book?
No. He was specifically tasked to look into the origins of the Russia investigation.
Okay.
So what that means is what we'll find out is, Hillary Clinton was a Hillary Clinton concocted plan in the first place. Her campaign paid, it's been a while since I had this conversation, for the Steele dossier through a third party. We can document all that. The FBI knew that it was fake. They knew her sources the Steele dossier sources were ridiculous. That's already been proven. That the sources themselves know they didn't have anything. They told the FBI that. Yet the FBI hid that, named one of the sources, which is Danchenko, had him as a confidential human source. So they couldn't release any information on him for 3 years, even though they knew the guy was lying.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the FBI paid this guy to cover it up. It's the cover up that usually catches you in these crimes, and so basically, you're looking at the whole upper echelon of the FBI. CIA sent a memo telling the FBI don't use this information; it's dodgy. So the CIA is somewhat covered. There's implications of how much England and MI6 was involved, and just for the record of it, our intel agencies are joined at the hip with the British intelligence. They always have been. MI5, MI6, CIA. They've always been basically. It's a brotherly relationship, and they're also the ones that create the British intel created Mossad in the Israeli intelligence. So it's all connected. How wide ranging can Durham go? I don't know, but you're talking about really blowing the lid off the deep state in many ways. Would we like them to go? Does it go deep enough? Can it reach Obama? And the answer is yes. If he knew about the spying on Trump's campaign, he's complicit, and the odds are pretty good. There's pretty good evidence that he did. We've got memos from meetings that first week of January 21. Tracy says Jordan doesn't want the gavel. That's what he said, and he's been very loyal to Kevin McCarthy. And
well, she also just said, "I would accept a McCarthy as speaker for a Hillary conviction."
Well, there you go. I put up with a lot to get it. Well, that's one of the issues with McCarthy, is is he able to rein in those committees to keep them from actually going after the big dogs? Yeah. Now these
Go ahead.
I was going to say these investigative committees. This is Congress. They don't really have the power to prosecute, and that's really where we're running. That's where we're running into the dead end if Durham is done with prosecutions. They can make recommendations to Biden's DOJ, but nothing's going to happen. But if the revelations are big enough, something's got to be done about it. The people should be in the streets. But we've had so much done to us the last 6 years, and
Well, it's funny how whenever the liberals, get in power, it's like you could see stuff getting done. Obviously, most of it's not good, but you could see them actually, getting stuff done. It seems like whenever Republicans get control, it's like they're kind of like, well, what do we do now?
Well, and you're seeing why that happens at the Speaker of the House debates going on this week. You've got over 200 people that are going to vote for the establishment Republican. They are part of the swamp. The Uniparty is exposing itself, and you've got 20 or so that are basically trying to go America first and say, look, the system has to change. So we're vastly outnumbered, but it's now everyone sees it for what it is. The Democrats are all celebrating. Hey, look at the Republicans; they're all divided and can't make up their minds, and all the Democrats are voting the exact same. And I go, well, that's not the compliment you think it is. That shows that you've got the hive mind. You have the collective mentality. Democrats can't think for themselves.
No.
Now they could easily 3 Democrats could easily cross the aisle, but they won't do it. To give McCarthy the gavel. But the one thing the Democrats could do is, in fact, today this could have been done. If 3 fewer Democrats show up today than were there tonight than were there this morning, that lowers the amount you need for a majority. And McCarthy's already got enough. He's already got 214 votes. And if there's only 427 people in that room, there was 430 there today. If 3 fewer people go there, McCarthy becomes speaker. So the Democrats can just not show up and make him speaker.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chat. What do y'all want to hear? I see there's 7 people watching. What questions you got? What you got for us? Anybody?
Let me see what else. Let me see what else I got in the news. Well, it is the anniversary of January 6th. We probably ought to cover that without getting it. See if we can do that without getting a strike on this channel.
Oh yeah. Which, by the way, we've already gotten 1 strike because I think the email said that we incited violence somehow.
Okay.
What's funny is I think it was the one where we first had you on, where you went over the history of a certain wealthy family.
Interesting. So
it was episode 6.
Well, it'd be really helpful if they tell us exactly what we said to get the strike, and that way we could avoid saying it in the future. But
Yeah, And they deleted it too, so I can't like go back. I have to like go. I could review it for the, appeal, but other than that, I can't see it. And what's funny is they say I can see it, but I can't see it. So
Interesting. Do you keep the recording, the files, the video files?
I leave them all in here, but I don't have anywhere else to send it.
I'm gonna give you a link later to so you can send the files to me, and I'll keep them. That way we don't lose that. Happy July 6th. You hear that? Tracy's pointing that out. Biden said that today.
Yeah, no kidding. There's all kinds of memes about that and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, let's talk about January 6th. So Pelosi, I'm gonna kind of give a summary for people, and then correct me if I'm wrong in anything. So essentially, Trump had a rally out front and, peacefully protest all this stuff. But beforehand, which we're now learning, is that Pelosi actually minimized security.
Yeah, Trump had offered to bring in the National Guard, and Pelosi refused it.
Yeah, and there's some other stuff too that recently came out in text messages, which added to that fire. But anyway,
so here's something that came out either yesterday or today. There's a guy who's a citizen reporter who was there right when everything happened. He has all kinds of video footage of Ray Epps, and he's got all kinds of video footage of Ashley Babbitt. He was there when she was shot. She was not breaking the window. She was trying to keep the window from being broken. Brings up the question of why she was trying to crawl through it. We don't know the answer to that. Anyways, this is information we didn't have before, and it makes the Capitol Police look really, really bad. It's on a Twitter thread. I'm sure it's going viral already. Something that happened today. I don't know, Anna, if you knew this, but Ashley Babbitt's mother, Nikki, she's from San Diego, and she's a friend of mine. In fact, last time I texted with her was on Christmas Eve.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
She got arrested today in Washington, D.C. for peacefully protesting, and I've not heard that she's been released. She usually would have texted me by now had she gotten out. So she was doing nothing wrong, wasn't being aggressive or violent, and they just decided, yeah.
Well, while you're doing that, I have this weird feeling that this January 6th is going to be our Tiananmen Square.
Well, yeah, it could be. We'll see how things play out. For jaywalking, Tracy says that's right. I think they arrested Nikki for jaywalking, and you don't usually arrest people for jaywalking. So I don't know. DC Capitol Police has got a lot to answer for. Yeah. I did find it really interesting that 5 Capitol Police were dead like in the 30 days after January 6th, and
it's probably because they're going to tell the truth.
Perhaps this tweet thread that came out today was describing how they were, the crowd really wasn't violent until the police started throwing flashbangs into the mob and smoke bombs and, shooting pellets at them. And then you get crowd behavior where everyone starts pushing forward. And even then.
It's also entrapment. I mean, the whole situation, they let them in and then they arrest a bunch of people. That's entrapment. That's illegal.
Well, there's multiple fronts. There's the peacefully walking in, the ones who stayed between the velvet ropes, and then there's the ones who breached it and started breaking windows. Yeah. And it's very likely that it was Antifa and some other types of plants.
Yeah.
The observation on the tweet thread that really stood out to me was this guy. This guy was he was reporting all during the Summer of Love riots in 2020, and he said he's never seen, and he was there. When Trump had to evacuate the White House, he was there for that. He goes on July 6th. He goes, he saw the police being more aggressive and causing violence 10 times more than ever before with any of the other riots. So it's looking like like I said, Republicans winning the House was a big deal because now they have access to subpoena that information that Nancy's been sitting on for 2 years. We may be able to get the truth out about J6. We'll see.
Are there still people in prison that have not been given their day in court?
100%. Some have been locked up like 600 or 700 days.
I mean, so there was I don't know if you know this person, but there's a guy named, and he's super in the know with the Oath Keepers and a bunch of those people. Hopefully, I didn't just give us a strike because I said that. But anyway, what's his name? He has like a TV, or he has like a radio show that he also does a video, and his producer's some lady.
You have to give me a name. That's a really broad. The guy with his show.
Peter Santilli, I think.
I definitely know who that is. I don't really watch him, but hey, Doug just texted. He's having trouble with his laptop, so he may be here after all.
Likely story. I'll believe it when I see it, Doug. But anyway, I mean, he's a pretty honest person, and when I say that, I mean like he doesn't have a filter. Like I remember like he's really passionate about that, and as well as the situation where Obama had a drone strike on this farmer's land or something like that, or I don't remember what it was, but it was a huge thing where the FBI and a bunch of other people were causing problems and try to kick this guy off his land, and he wouldn't go, and it was a mess. I'm trying to think. I think it was like in Utah or something like that. I forgot what ranch it was called. Maybe I can look it up on my phone.
Are you talking about the Bundy Ranch?
That's possible. Do you have a?
Yeah, that was in the Bundy family. They had a ranch in Nevada. They basically had the family for decades, had cattle rights, and the Bureau of Land Management wanted them to move or stop using the land. It became a major sovereign, basically citizen sovereignty rights, and the police ended up murdering one of the Bundys. The FBI did.
That actually might be consistent. I'm gonna keep looking just to see if I can.
Yeah, let's look up Bundy Ranch. Yeah, that was a big deal. That was back when I was palling around with libertarians, and we were very much on the side of the Bundys. Obviously libertarian and people like me, independent-minded, will generally speaking take the side of people that are exercising their natural rights as opposed to a government trying to take it away. And it was pretty predictable.
Yep. Yeah, that was it. It was the Bundy standoff.
Yep.
And Pete Santilli actually was accused by a prosecutor, and he actually spent time in prison for it. Interesting.
Yeah, it was Ammon Bundy. Anyways, long story short, one of the Bundy sons is got a pretty good sized channel. He's in our corner of the universe, or the internet, I should say.
Is he?
I haven't really watched it, but I bumped into him. I bumped into his show a couple of times. But so he's in a freedom fighter cause.
Mm.
What I think is going to be really interesting now that the Republicans have the gavel and subpoena power is there's a missing 14,000 hours of videotape that Nancy Pelosi never let us see that happened that day. Now they should get access to that. What has me concerned is that with the naming of Jack Smith as a special counsel. Now, as of right now, he's not tasked to do anything about January 6th or the two criminal referrals that came out of the J6 committee. But if he does get tasked to take that up, what they'll end up doing is the Republicans will never get their hands on any of the documents that the Democrats have had for 2 years, because they'll say, "Oh no, it's part of an ongoing federal investigation. You can't see it." Same thing they did with the Mueller report or Mueller investigation.
Yeah.
So hopefully the Republicans get
Tracy's
access
asking
to that.
if.
No, I don't think they're.
Tracy's asking if. Say that again.
No, I don't think they're related.
Oh.
No.
I didn't think so either. But yeah, it's I think the point of me saying that was that he connected January 6th and that together, because I think the Oath Keepers were also involved in that. And there's like a lot of like federal intertwinement with different groups and all this other stuff, which is a big problem with that. And I think there's also that issue with the Bundy case too.
I don't want to disparage, because a lot of the guys in the Oath Keepers went in there for all the right reasons. But when it comes to those organizations, these, even paramilitary, what have you, We've just seen so much evidence that the feds are just totally infiltrating them, and if they're not infiltrating, they're spying on everything they do, and it just makes no sense to join that type of organization. So everyone goes, well, what do how do you do to get organized? For a worst case scenario. Look, the same way you organize for anything else. Like, for example, we have a local Constitution class. We meet every Thursday. Well, we're all friends in the same group of people. Sometimes go to the shooting range together. We do other social events together. We don't call ourselves a militia, but if the world were to go to hell in a handbasket, zombie apocalypse style, we've got a bunch of people, that are ready to gather and have plans of where to go and how to do it. How do we keep each other alive? We've got a community. We built it. We did it through the Constitution. So there's a lot of ways to organize without calling yourself a militia. I mean, it's just plain silly at this point if you want to invite that kind of Fed attention. So
by the way, since we are getting a very sensitive topic, if we were to get another strike and it stops the streaming on here for a while, I also have Twitter, and then Brady and I will figure out something where we could get a stream going so people can still watch it.
Yeah, we can always throw it up on my Rumble channel anytime we want. I got a couple of those.
But because I have a feeling the more we talk, because there's been people that have actually had their channels shut down because of January 6th. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm just saying, like, that's another thing is that this is literally one of the most controversial topics, I think, of our day right now. It's not going away. I mean, there's going to be justice for the people who basically, here's the funniest part of all the people that have been prosecuted and charged for being there that day. Not a single person has been accused of insurrection. Not one. So therefore, the criminal case saying that Donald Trump inspired an insurrection can't go forward because the Department of Justice won't even charge them with an insurrection. You can't charge somebody with inspiring something or instigating something that you can't prove that actually happened. So, but that story, this is, I mean, we'll find out how much information, now that we have a Republican House, how much information we get. What can be done about it is, hang on a second. Well, shoot, Doug, I can't text the link because I'm on a different computer. Are you able to? Let's see what I could do.
Can you? Yeah, can you? You're gonna have to email it to me so I can text it to Doug. Can you do that?
I think I can. I can.
Or I could email it to myself. That's I've got 5 different hooked up devices right now, and they don't all talk to each other. But,
yeah.
Tracy, are you do you watch Scott McKay a lot? He just did a 4 video series about somebody named of I'll tell you the name. Give me 1 second. Russell J. Gould, and it's a story that's making it our way. Shocker, thank you for the compliment. So this Russell J. Gould story is making its way around the internet, and apparently he saved the United States from Great Britain taking us over in 1999 and saved us trillions of dollars. And it sounds like a bit of a stretch, but a lot of the influencers in our corner of the internet are running with the story like it's true, and in my opinion, losing credibility.
Hey, I texted you the link because I don't have Doug's number on my iPad. More hipsters, the top G.
I appreciate the compliment. Cool. Doug should be joining us shortly. Yeah. So just finishing.
Whenever he comes on, we should start talking about alien abductions. That'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah, finishing up the Russell J. Gould. Just finish up the Russell J. Gould. These are the same influencers that are consistently talking about NESARA, GESARA, and some other things. And unfortunately, they'll have people on their shows that go even into some of the crazier theories than that. Everything like the white hat aliens and everything like that. So I'm getting a little frustrated that people are not showing more discernment. People that I think used to be pretty good sources of information are no longer.
Yeah.
There's Doug.
So anyway, the alien abduction case was very interesting. It was. Oh, hey, Doug, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having all hell break loose here. I got 2 computers and an internet system not cooperating.
That's
Well, yeah.
awkward.
We've have you been listening or?
No,
You
I've been trying to get my systems to work.
All right. Well, we've covered the Speaker of the
Yeah,
House.
Fred.
We've covered the Speaker of the House, and we've covered J6, July 6th.
Yeah, now I was watching that earlier, and like 14 had jumped ship, but he hadn't gotten enough. I did not catch the last vote.
The last vote, he's he stands at 214, and there's 430 people there, so he's 3 short. But if 3 Democrats were to not show up at 7:00 our time tonight, then he would be Speaker with 214. That'd be 214 out of 427. So he could become Speaker tonight. It could easily happen if the Democrats choose to. They can make him Speaker.
All right.
14 of the holdouts from yesterday to today flipped to McCarthy.
I saw that.
The concessions he's made have been fantastic. There's really good things. If you want to see a functioning government, the big one, and Jenna Ellis just tweeted about it, is, so we'll just read this to you. The motion to vacate is key. She says, it's a privilege motion, supersedes all other business except adjournment. It takes only one person to propose it. If invoked, McCarthy would need a majority of 218 to stay as Speaker. That's not correct, Jenna. If the motion to vacate is put in as a House rule and someone invokes it, well, what happens is the majority, which is the Republicans, a plurality of the majority can remove him. So it almost makes sense, and I said this earlier on the show, but I'll repeat it for Doug's benefit. If you wanted to get rid of McCarthy and didn't want him to be Speaker, it almost makes sense to vote him in today with that rule in place. And as soon as he slips up or breaks his word, you invoke the motion to dismiss. And instead of needing 218 Republicans to get someone else as Speaker, you only need 111 or 112 to get a majority to remove him. So it seems like it's a much lower bar. But from a parliamentary standpoint, the rule changes the holdouts have proposed have been fantastic. And it will make for a much more functional Congress. And for the record, a lot of these rules used to be in place until Nancy came along and started changing rules. So I've thought this entire week has been one of the best things for quote unquote, I don't want to use the D word, but for democracy, the way people say it.
So
Okay.
what we're also talking about, which you just rolled up into, as much as you love hearing about alien abductions, Doug, it was not that. It was.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing, and I'm like, oh crap, what's going on here? God, I missed a little bit of time, and the children opened up the wrong toy box.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we were close. We were talking about Scott McKay talking about some wild stuff. So
Yeah,
Well, the last time he did a show that I watched, and it was only because somebody I won't mention, Warhamster, sent me the link, and they were talking Galactic Federation, and I'm like, yeah, no.
what are they talking about, the Galactic Federation anyway? Like, what is that?
There's a couple of influencers out there that are claiming that they are the Galactic Federation of White Hats, representatives on Earth, and one of them just a couple weeks ago did a show where basically his whatever puppet master, his commander is someone named Ray, and another person called the Black Widow, and they just did a major operation to take down a bunch of black hats, 88 of them, who were all staying in the same hotel in Washington, D.C., and otherwise it would have been a catastrophe. And it's, obviously none of this stuff can be remotely sourced. And it's amazing to me. And there's a bunch of these people out there, and they've got a lot of viewers. They get clicks. And they present. It's one thing to be telling science fiction stories. It's another to try to say, hey, this is actually happening, and wasting people's time. Good people that could be knocking on doors, getting petitions signed, and actually helping to change the country. And that's why it makes me so mad. But some of these,
Yeah,
I mean,
well, the problem is then I get students to start asking me some of these silly stuff. Well, I really respect this person, but they said, and I'm like, whoa. So I got to spend all this time, spraying, flame retardant all over them to put out the, the fire of messiness going on. But
yeah, and I spent my time on some of the conspiracy websites over the last decade plus, and look,
You have.
well, sure I have. No, and look, how I deal. I look at all these things. Is it plausible? Okay, is it possible? Is it probable? But you got to have some kind of.
Galactic Federation. No. Last time I saw that was in Star Wars.
There's a new one called.
Well, it's funny because when you said Ray, I was going to ask if he was related to Emperor Palpatine also. But anyway, go ahead.
Now, apparently, Ray is a female alien, a secret agent. That's about as far as I can go, and that's all I would need to know.
That's the name of one of Palpatine's like great granddaughter or granddaughter actually in the last 3 movies. So
yeah, in Star Wars.
Yeah. And the first time I heard this Galactic Federation thing, it sounded like an episode from Star Trek.
Well, I can tell you this: it's 100% not biblical. That's for sure. And
there's that too.
And also, it's just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, the new one with the aliens is something like the light. These people, I don't know, it's a light year, something or other. That's another galactic white hat thing. But some of these people, these influencers pushing this stuff, peddling it, they're making really good money, and I don't think they're making money so much from their videos, because one guy says he's got like 1.8 million viewers. He's bought those views. Those are robots that are watching his shows. But some of these multi-level marketing schemes that they do, on those channels actually do make money. So a lot of it's silver, other precious metals, stuff like that. And it's really too bad, because there are some legitimate precious metals operations that aren't multi-level marketing or aren't scams. And some of them actually do sponsor influencers that are good people. It's just really difficult because it's hard for both the consumer and these influencers to be able to tell the difference. They don't have the skill set to do the due diligence and say, is this a legitimate operation or not? And so I guess my message is be very careful about who you follow, and more importantly about which products you're buying.
Well, go ahead, Doug.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. I was just thinking about the fact that I had to do my due diligence just recently for the rear end assembly for my truck. But, going through all these companies. And also, if I just found out today, I've got 2 people that have decided that they are me on Facebook, and they're telling everybody, hey, I got 300,000 and you can get 100,000 if you just fill out this or whatever. I got people calling me. I'm like, no, that's not me.
You got your own mini me's. That's a sign. Imitation's a sign of flattery.
Now when it's dirtbags. I'm sorry?
What's wrong with your truck?
Rear end assembly. It's howling like a werewolf when I drive. The gears, and I've got one of the wheel bearings that's going out. And so I can have someone come in and rebuild parts of it for $2,500, or I can just buy a used entire rear end assembly from Texas, have it shipped for about $1,500, and then have my a local mechanic I know put it in for $600. That was cheaper, so that's what I went with.
Did you already get it done?
It's already been bought. I'm waiting for it to show up.
Okay.
Just to finish up the precious metals thing, I was going to make a final comment that there is a long and inglorious history of people claiming to custody your gold who are not doing that with responsibility. So I just wanted to finish up that note of caution. This goes back centuries.
Yes.
Hey,
well, and we've said this. Excuse me, Andrew. We've said this on this show before. All of this stuff goes back centuries. All of it is the same playbook, just different logos, different people, different technologies, but it's the same garbage.
Yeah. What about the X-22 guy, Brady? Do you know anything about him?
Dave? I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's very intellectually honest. I think he means well. He's backed off on some of his hyperbole. When he's been wrong, he's admitted it to some degree. I think he absolutely means well. I see no reason to think that he is a bad actor or anything like that. I think he truly believes what he believes, and he's trying to find the truth. I think he's one of the good ones.
So would you recommend his channel?
If you're looking for hopium, yeah. If you want more hard, brutal facts, not so much. But yeah, overall, I used to watch him a little more often, but I mean, I'd say I pick up a show of his once or twice a month if he's got something interesting going on. And
I know about him because of a mutual friend of ours and my mom who follows him, but that's all I've known. I've never watched him.
Yeah, and then has anyone ever heard of Simon in a while?
Simon Parks?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Those guys are so far off the reservation. Those are the Nisara Jasara poster children. And no, I've got very little use for him and Charlie. The interesting story, JFK Jr. once upon a time owned a magazine called George. And it was like a lifestyle. It's like a lifestyle magazine. Now that's been resurrected, and I think it's kind of fuzzy who owns it. But the people they've featured in it are Charlie Ward, Scott McKay, and some of these other people from that circle. And so that's
interesting.
Yeah. So the new and of course the rumor goes out that the JFK Jr. is alive, and he's the one that opened up George again. All right, if that's what you want to spend your time on. I'm not with you. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Did they ever find his body?
Well, yeah. It was a plane crash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they found it. Whether they found a body or his body, of course, you will never be able to prove that. We're not going to go in there and do a DNA test on JFK Jr. So
yeah. I was just curious. I don't know. I remember Mom talking about it because my mom was alive when Senior was killed. So, I think she was like 12 or something whenever he died. No, she would have been 13 when JFK was killed. She would have been 13. I have parents older than Doug. I'm just going to say that.
My mom was in high school, I think, when JFK was shot.
So my parents are almost as old as your parents. That's funny.
Responding to LeChalker in chat, talking about the situation report. Yeah, I used to watch that quite a bit. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he does a pretty good job there. I think they went through the articles of I'm sorry,
what's the situation report?
It's another channel. They do some pretty good info. Trying to remember the guy's name. I can't pull it up on my phone right now. But yeah, I used to watch the Sit Rep. There's a lot of good channels out there, and not everybody who's been wrong is a bad actor.
Yeah.
Sometimes people make mistakes.
I think they all just kind of they all kind of watch each other's stuff, and then they do a little surface research themselves, and then they spew out what they got, and I don't know. I mean, here's the thing, and I can attest to this. If you, the individual, unless you're Brady or Doug, because I remember Doug got mad at me whenever I did not say this, so I admit it. But anyway, if you're not these two are very good researchers. Okay, I am not, but I guess I kind of am on certain things. But anyway, to find out information on where the real secrets are, you're probably not going to find it, because if people say that the government's not good at hiding things, yeah, they are. They are.
All right, guys. I just pulled up something interesting from Anna Luna. She's a freshman Congress person from Florida, pretty high profile. Here's some of what's in play. These are the demands that they're putting forth to make McCarthy speaker. One is the Jeffersonian motion to vacate the chair, which we just talked about. Second one is a church-style committee. This allows us to look into the weaponization of organizations like the FBI against the American people. Third, and Doug, let's make this the next topic we talk about, is term limit vote. Because so we both have opinions on that.
Yeah.
Fourth is, and I love this one, single subject bills. They can't be loaded with irrelevant nonsense. No more pork.
I've been saying that for years.
The next one, a Texas border plan. The problem with that is, of course, the Biden administration has to implement it, and they won't. They already have a mandate to secure the border, and they won't. 3 more. A budget that stops an increase in the debt ceiling and holds the Senate accountable. Okay. All for that 9 months from now. Second to last, ending emergency funding and all COVID mandates and funding. Well, here. I don't know if the House has the power to do that. And the last one is 72 hours to read a bill, which would have stopped that $1.7 trillion budget plan. So those are the asks that they're asking from McCarthy, and apparently he's willing to give on a lot of those.
Well, the question is he honestly giving in, or is he just giving them lip service?
And can he be held accountable? That's actually the problem. And that's what Matt Gaetz is basically saying. We can't hold you accountable. We don't trust you. You've lied before. Matt Gaetz is, when he first stumbled on the scene, I thought he was a little bit too greasy, a little bit too smooth. And then when the deep state went after him for that the minor sex charge, well, of course that came out zero. And he's been the real firebrand ever since. He's been spot on a lot of issues. I think
well, when they attack you like that, that's a sign you're probably one of the better ones.
So, hey, let's go over some of these proposals since it's a constitutional show. Let's talk term limits.
Hold on, wait. I want to comment on this first. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hear Doug say no.
Sort of. There's
smirking, so I know I'm not wrong.
Well, there's two major arguments against term limits, and I'll do the quick version and let Doug go into depth. How's that sound?
Sure.
The first one is, if you're not doing term limits on the staffers and all the permanent DC bureaucrats, you're not fixing anything. Most of the swamp are these permanent people that aren't elected. So if they don't have term limits, you're not changing anything. The second one is if someone's going to be a crook as a politician and you tell them they can only be there for 4 years instead of 40, well, they're just going to commit all their crime in 4 years and then move on. And it also does nothing to address the revolving door with lobbyists and the other corporations. So that's the quick version. Doug's going to go into more detail because I've heard him do this before and it's pretty entertaining.
Andrew, you are very observant, watching me smirk. You're exactly right. I have a real problem with term limits, and it's funny because I get into these discussions a lot with people. People get upset with me because you don't try to fix a problem by trying to force a block, through a round hole. That's not what you do. First of all. Second of all, and Brady covered it, our problem is not the politicians as much as it is the deep state. And when you have term limits, what you wind up with are a whole bunch of people who are very green. And it's hard enough to battle these bureaucrats that have been in place for 40, 50, 60 years. And to be an experienced politician. It's even harder to do it when all of the politicians that are holding office are green because they can't be in office for very long. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Doug. What if in the bill for term limits, every politician that has already exceeded those limits are gone?
It doesn't change anything because once again, our problem isn't as much them as it is
supposed to be the more mature.
Well, they're supposed to be, but because they're voted in, that's not going to happen. But my point is this. None of that matters because you didn't address the problem. Yeah. All you did was play with the symptoms.
Sure.
The problem is the bureaucracy. Now, that said, in some offices, there is a type of term limits I have supported in the past. For example, with city councils, I do support no more than 2 consecutive terms. What that does is after them serving 2 terms, they have to take like 2 years off till the next vote. And then they can't run as an incumbent. It gets the dirt balls out, and if you're really, really good, you should be able to win again.
Well, then how about that with the House? That doesn't sound unreasonable.
Well. Once again, we got to deal with the bureaucracy before we deal with that. In California, we went to term limits, and everything got worse. Now, that all said, let's get into It's good. It's a good question, and it sounds like. And let me kind of set aside what I'm saying for a moment. It sounds like, Andrew, you have spent a long time supporting term limits, and it's kind of bothering you that I'm not in your camp.
Actually, not really. I as far as term limits, I care about whatever's constitutional, but I do think that maybe if there's a valid way to implement it, I would not be opposed to it.
Okay, so what if I told you term limits already exist?
For the House?
Yeah.
Well, if
they only hold office for every
it.
2 years. If they only hold office for 2 years, and if we had a responsible electorate, they would remove them if they are a problem. There's your term limit.
You tricked me.
See what I'm getting at is the problem is we haven't been doing our job, so we want to force them out after a certain time because we're not willing to do our job. Our job is to be informed, to remove the ones that are not good, let the ones that are stay in. We don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't resolve the problem by forcing that into place. You resolve the problem by becoming an informed public, for number one. Number two, you get rid of the bureaucracy. But the most important of all three, and I should have said it first, you become a republic again.
Yeah.
Because part of the problem is what? That the House is not really the problem as much as the Senate, because the House is the same as it's always been.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would say I'm split on term limits and not term limits, and here's why. This goes across the board. I'm in favor of term limits because if you happen to get enough scoundrels in there to, brainwash their constituents enough, they'll keep voting them in, i.e. Pelosi, or there's cheating. But then I'm also against term limits because if there's people I like in there, I don't want the, let's just say Brady ran for president. And Brady was the best president in history. Everybody loved him. Democrats, Republicans, everybody. Okay.
Well, that doesn't make him good because everybody loved Roosevelt and he was a piece of crap. But go ahead.
Right. But anyway, because of the 22nd Amendment, we have a presidential term limit. But if there's a president that I really like, I would want him to keep going. So, in reality, I think the best solution when it comes to term limits would be ideally what you said, where we need to be more informed and vote out the ones that need to be voted out, and then allow to stay in the ones that need to stay in.
All right. Well, and let's look at it this way real quick. Because see, for the most part, when it comes to term limits, nothing has changed since the beginning until now, except for two things. One, the president now can only serve two terms.
Hmm.
So the president does have term limits. I think that was a good idea.
That's what 20, was that 23rd?
22nd.
No, it's a 22nd.
Shoot. Gosh darn
Hey,
it.
I got something right that Brady did.
I'm not supposed to miss those. I have my cheat sheet right here too.
How did I get that right? You got that wrong.
Yeah. The other thing is that has changed is that the senators are now voted in rather than be appointed. Now, so in the beginning, right? So in the beginning, they didn't see themselves as professional politicians; they saw themselves as servants. Why is that different? And I just want short answers because I'm looking for a bigger thing down the road. So why is it that they are no longer servants? They are now professional politicians. Is it because of the voting public? No. Why is it that we have tyrants rather than servants?
The financial.
Because they don't have any sacred honor.
Well, it's because these people believe they are. They have become corrupted. There's other reasons for that, but the basic reason is they're corrupted. They're a problem.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the financial incentives have changed.
That would be one of the causes, absolutely, that are attached to it. My point is, and I could go through all of this. I keep asking these questions, but in the end, what we're going to discover is the reason we're in trouble is not because they don't leave office, and they don't leave office not because of any reason other than one thing. We don't have a virtuous society. We don't have a virtuous. Let me rephrase that. If they were moral and good people, they would understand after they were done with their term of so many years, it'd be time to leave and bring in somebody else. If we were an informed and moral and religious people who paid attention to this stuff, we wouldn't allow them to be in office for a long time. Our problem is not the fact that they're in office for too long. The problem is that our culture is out of whack.
Yeah,
that is a big part of it, and I would take it back to the $1 million question we probably answer just about every week. Is the Constitution was a beautiful document, really well thought through by some moral people. When did it go off the rails? And pretty much before the ink was dry is our longstanding answer. Mm-hmm. What happened when Hamilton? What these Federalists wanted? They wanted protective tariffs, government-sponsored internal improvements. That opens up the avenue for graft, which means the people who want this type of mercantilist government, the business people, they're going to put politicians in office who are going to vote them favors. This is crony capitalism. It incentivizes it. If you get rid of the mercantilist system and make sure there's a sharp divide between public and private, you don't run into these problems.
Wait, are you saying we're fascist?
Well, it's absolutely. That's the definition of fascism, is the government and private business working together. And it's exactly where we are.
There's some people on Twitter that don't think so.
Well, and people make a case that this country is being run by communists. Well, there's a lot of isms involved here, but at the end of the day, the fundamental problem is you've got these multinational corporations that are basically calling the shots through their lobbyists. They're the ones who get the politicians elected or not elected. They're the ones who write the bills. 4,400 page, $1.7 trillion omnibus bill that not a single politician read before voting on. That's written by corporate lawyers. You've got to separate the private from the public, and that's the way it was supposed to be. So and it takes a moral society to enforce that. But the mercantilist system that Hamilton wanted and got, that's the same thing Lincoln put into place with a single party rule in 1860. Look what happened in post Civil War over the next 30 or 40 years. It was the era of the robber barons. It's these very few people that were connected to the government. You had the federal government handing out railroad leases, and these railroad barons made tons of money. The steel barons made tons. The banking barons, that's where you got the Rockefellers from. And then when oil came in, 30 years later. If you don't have a mercantilist system, this doesn't happen. But once it's been in place for a while, now they own the judges. Now they own the universities. Now they own, the courts, the politicians, and it's really hard to rip these ticks off of the dog.
And here's the thing, this is a process. This is something that's not going to happen instantly. It's going to take time. And the problem is everybody seems to think that term limits will just solve everything. Well, it doesn't change the fact that you've got corruption. It doesn't change the fact that mercantilism is going on. It doesn't change the fact that bad bills are being put out. And now that they've got a short time in office, they're going to do what the Democrats were doing between November and a few days ago. They're going to be pushing through as much as they can in the short time they're in there. So all it does is it puts the tyrants into a quicker mode.
Hey, I think what also might help with corruption a little bit. Alabama wind chimes. People could look that one up.
All right.
Although, not for the intended use, obviously, because that was not the most moral situation, but the same mechanism. Maybe some feathers and some, tar. I mean, there's ways that we can.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Accountability, and you're getting more creative on it. So, We may have to hire. We may have to hire Andrew as the chief executioner when the time comes.
Oh, it's gonna suck for them.
You guys want to go through the rest of this list? I think that's a good way to. All right, next one down here. Well, we skipped over the church committee, looking into the weaponization of organizations like the FBI against the American people. Absolutely necessary, perhaps constitutional. There is precedence. Have Doug comment on the constitutionality of these committees because look, they are allowed to conduct tribunals in Congress. That is Article 1, Section 8. They are allowed to have tribunals, but they keep calling them. They don't call them tribunals, and I've never figured that one out. So maybe we can address that. But the big question is, yes, let's investigate it. Let's get everything out there. Rip the Band-Aid off. Full transparency and let the chips fall where they may. I don't care, Republican or Democrat. Let's get the truth. The question is, does Congress, with one of these church-style committees, have any teeth? Can they do anything?
Or do they have also the stomach, the intestinal fortitude, or maybe I should say the testicular fortitude to carry it through to the end?
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, as much as I can't stand Pelosi, when she wants something done, she gets it done. I mean, she impeached Trump twice. You know, total bogus. You know, so she's got a bigger pair than. Well, she might actually have a pair. Who knows? But you know, she's got.
Why not? Michelle does.
Yeah, yeah. Old Michael there. Now the channel's canceled. There we go. Hey, Doug. I don't think I told you, but we got a strike on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I remember you telling me last time we were on the air.
Yeah, it's we incited violence or something.
We incited violence?
Somehow.
Oh, I thought maybe we talked about the F word.
No, it was the first episode I was on, so we were talking about a certain banking family.
Maybe that might. I don't remember which episode that was. I'll look it up and then I'll.
We incited violence.
Anyways,
we are like the three least violent people I know. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, you talk about the going back to the church-style committees and everything like that, and do we have the willpower to go through with it? It really, you know, you go back to, you know, who was it that led the JFK committee that investigated that? What was one of the people? Was one of the founders of the CIA.
Right.
What do you think you were going to find? So, if you're going to do a church-style committee, the personnel that are put in charge of it and the level of transparency that's what matters. You know, what we found.
Well, I've been saying this for a while. Our problem is that the auditors of the federal government is the federal government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we and you can't get a special prosecutor. You know, for the love of God, I mean, you know, we thought Bill Barr was going to be a good, honest AG. Even.
Well, yeah, but if they bring someone from the outside, they bring their own person.
Yeah, so
it's really not someone from the outside.
Well, there really shouldn't be anything behind closed doors. Every single thing, every single part of it should be live streamed 24/7. If you give me 100% transparency, I'll trust the process. Anything else, I'm going to assume the government's covering it up.
Yeah, this Constitution, it mentions time and time and time again about them keeping journals, about them publishing these journals, about them publishing the votes. This is all about transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're going to do a church-style committee, no thank you, because that was not. That one didn't solve anything. And you go back to what Doug said about do they have the will to actually follow it through? Well, let's talk about the McCarthy hearings because he didn't have the will. The media was able to raise such a stink. They were able to change public opinion, and it became an unpopular. And they were actually uncovering true communist subversion because it existed in Hollywood and in the universities, and they were able to fight back through the media. So if you don't have the willpower to make it go through, what's the point?
I stand corrected. It was episode 7, and it said that we glorified and or incited violence.
In episode 7?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a copy of episode 7 anywhere, or can we not take a look at it later?
It's all in here, but I have to have a place to send it. If I'm able to send it, I don't know. Brady would have to. You're probably tech smartier than I am.
I can tell you how to send a file. If you've got the file, I can tell you how to get it to us.
It's all on StreamYard, so I don't know.
Glorified or incited violence.
Oh well, All right, so going past church style committee, let's talk about single subject bills that can't be loaded with irrelevant nonsense.
Oh, you mean like Jefferson talked about often and often? He said that if they voluminous, is that the way you say the word? Whatever.
I say voluminous.
Yeah, that Jefferson said that if a bill is voluminous, then that means that it is intended to deceive. That should be short and to the point, and that would include, I believe, being on a single topic. If it can't stand on its own, it has no business being an earmark.
You know,
and I mean, and look at you look at the omnibus bill. The omnibus bill, I mean, has all these laws they couldn't get passed. They squeezed them into that. And basically, they held our the budget basically hostage to get what they couldn't get otherwise. And one of them, which I plan to do a video on, I just haven't had a chance to do it yet, is on the electoral count.
You mean how they changed the rules of how I got a question about that one since you bring it up. They threw one of the bits of pork that was thrown into that omnibus spending bill was they changed the Electoral Count Act. Now, right. I make the argument they can't do that without an amendment.
Well, the Electoral Act, the first Electoral Act back in 60 something, was or 80 something. It was late 1800s. It was partially unconstitutional. Part of it was clarification. Part of it was changing how they did things. And the thing is, what cracked me up is the one that they made the biggest deal about is whether or not what was the role of the vice president as president of the Senate? And they said, well, his role is ceremonial. He's only there to count the votes. That's actually constitutionally, that's his role, only to count. It's not that ceremonial. That he's not there to certify or decertify or anything like that. That's not his job as president of the Senate in that particular situation. But if you read further through that bill or that act, they take away some of the state legislatures' ability to act regarding those elections. And when it comes to presidential elections, it's all about the state legislatures. Congress has got no authority whatsoever to be monkeying with that. But that's for a different conversation. But the act, parts of it are very, very unconstitutional. The one where they basically take away some of the voice of the state legislatures is very, very unconstitutional. The only thing that really we need to know about presidential elections is, one, there's not supposed to be a popular vote even at the state level. It's totally up to the electors when it comes to the actual presidential vote. If there is a popular vote, that's up to the state legislatures on whether or not they want a district to vote for their own elector popularly, which often they did. But the electors were not originally held to follow the vote of the people. They were appointed based on a vote of the people or an appointment by the state legislature, and usually it was a little bit of both. Yeah. The other thing is, too, is if you read this act, it assumes that it's always been with the popular vote for regarding electors and winner take all, and both of which are not true. So
there should be a court challenge to put a freeze on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's music to my ears. I mean, we haven't had a chance to talk about this because it just happened. And but I read through it and I said, "Oh my God, this my constitution."
Well, a commenter on one of my videos asked me to do a video on it.
Okay, so I will. I'm sure you'll send it to me, so I'll look forward to that one. And
all right,
Tracy, a 4,000-page bill is an absolute joke. The worst part about some of these bills is they're even bigger. And here's the part that gets me: is Congress will pass a bill that has something to do with the EPA, and they say, "Okay, EPA, we want you to do these 36 things, and you go ahead and make your own rules." So now Congress is not only giving up their legislative authority to the executive branch again, who should have no authority to make rules. They've also ceded their legislative power to the judicial branch. Well, they didn't cede it; it was taken. Where's the separation of powers with that? It is a mess when these. You just got to, and that's why it needs to go back to states handling these things and not the federal government, because that's.
Yeah, but if you talk to someone from that side of the aisle, the states are the danger. I mean, we had in our class last night in Carlsbad, there's a particular individual, and I appreciate him, but he takes this, kind of Lincolnian stance that, the states can't be trusted, and so the federal government's got to make sure they don't misbehave, and therefore we have to incorporate everything and make sure that the federal government's the enforcers, and that's very dangerous. That's what has led us to where we're at.
Yeah. Well, we have to work on him a little bit. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Oh no. He's very knowledgeable about what I talk about. The problem is the knowledge I think that he has been given is more of a Hamiltonian angle. And he and I have talked a couple times about that. He knows that's how I feel. So I mean, if he was listening right now, he would say, "Yep, Doug said that to me before." So it's not like I'm just talking about somebody. He has a very Hamiltonian view of these things, and so I like to get him and that particular individual in my Capistrano class and throw them in a room together and have you and I spend a few hours with them.
Oh, I would say our Carlsbad guy is probably far more reasonable, but than
this is true.
Yeah, he's actually. I actually enjoy talking to him. He's just
he's Hamiltonian influenced, but not full on Hamiltonian. It's like it's like that movie, Tropic Thunder. You don't go full Hamiltonian. The gentleman at Capistrano, he's full Hamiltonian.
Or worse, from what I hear. Next topic down here, the Texas border plan. And I asked the question when I read these out. It doesn't matter what Congress does if the Biden administration doesn't do anything.
This is true. Yeah. If they're not going to execute any law or any legislative push, then it doesn't matter. And matter of fact, I came across an article earlier today, and it's on my phone, which I am now using to be on because my computers are giving me fits, so I can't look it up. But it basically, and it was from, oh man, I can't remember who it was from. But it's a lefty news agency, and it basically said, well, with a Congress that is in the hands of the opposition, that means that the president will need to use executive actions to make sure he gets what he wants.
Yikes.
So in other words, hey, Congress not going to work with you, so just go write some executive orders and make it happen anyway that way. I mean, that's basically what it said.
We just got we got spammed in the StreamYard chat. I just took care of it.
Oh, cool.
I don't think we need to watch any XXX sites tonight. Yeah, and that's kind of the big point is, we talk about the midterms and everybody's been acting like it was an absolute failure for Republicans. And it was in some ways because the polls should have shown us we should have had I say we, I'm not even a Republican. Republicans should have had 53 Senate seats. They should have probably gained another 20 or 20 plus in the House.
Right.
I think if we had very fair elections, I think that probably would have been the case. I don't think we did have that.
No, there's a number of factors. That would be one factor. There's other factors as well. But absolutely.
Had McCarthy and McConnell spent the money in the right places and not worked against America First people.
There you go. There's another one. Mm-hmm.
One more reason McCarthy probably doesn't deserve the gavel. And that's why Matt Gaetz is not backing down on this. He goes, "No, you've screwed us over one too many times. I'm not ever going to trust you." And that's a reasonable stance. There's a track record there. But
there's two or three that will never change their vote. The problem is like you said, if the couple of Democrats don't show up, that changes the whole scenario.
Yeah. But McCarthy can't afford to be seen as compromising with the Democrats. That ends him. He loses so much credibility by doing it. If he crosses the aisle, And the Democrats won't do that either. I mean, by not showing up, they'll get credibility with their people. But Tracy says, get Matt Gaetz for speaker. Oh, my goodness, wouldn't that be fun? But the point I was trying to make is the midterms were a victory because, I mean, for the love of God, we just retired Nancy Pelosi. You took the gavel. You took the gavel away from Nancy Pelosi. That is a victory in and of itself.
Right.
Having the power to subpoena in the hands of the few good Republicans is a big deal. Being able to name the committee chairs is a big deal. Being able to keep people like Adam Schiff off of committees is a big deal. The midterms, and we gained in 2020. When I say we, once again, the Republicans gained up and down the ballot, except for the Senate and the presidency in 2020. Those are two pretty big things to lose. But they gained in the House, they gained in the state legislatures, they gained in the governors. Republicans they continue to gain. 2018 obviously was a Democrat landslide, but that was all because of the Russia hoax. It was media fueled and all that. But from 22, so that's kind of segues into the Ronna McDaniel, should she still be versus Harmeet Dillon battle for the chair of the GOP? Has Ronna been that bad? Even though, because I just described that the Republicans have actually won the last two cycles overall. Right. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because they should have won by a lot more. The Democrat policies are not popular with the American people. They're never going to be. I mean, they're an abject failure, any way you measure it. They should be losing elections by a lot more than they are. So yeah, Ronna McDaniel needs to go. Now, is Harmeet Dillon the solution? Perhaps not. I mean, I'm not crazy about her. I know Doug's not. Or Doug's got his reasons.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's really, it's a binary choice at this point. I would say Harmeet is better than the known failure.
This is true. And unfortunately, the other person that everybody would hope for, because of the establishment obstacles, would never have a chance. That would be Lindell.
Well, that's actually funny you bring that up, because there's a Twitter poll put out yesterday that I participated in, or someone just put out there, who do you want to see for the Speaker of the House? And nobody said this name. I go, hey, what about Mike Lindell? That would be a great job for him. That'd be. I
think you'd be a fantastic chairman, but you got to convince establishment Republicans to also vote him in, and that ain't going to happen.
Not yet. Yeah, that's why the Precinct Project needs to keep. Look, we always knew the Precinct Project was going to take several cycles. Yeah, and it's ongoing. And it's Dan Schultz out of Arizona put together a great plan, and it's been successful in a lot of states, and needs to be more successful.
Not just a precinct project. We also need precinct counting when it comes to the vote. But we need to decentralize the counting also.
That's probably an entire show. So let's not go there. Election integrity could take us hours.
Yep.
Shall we go past the Texas border plan, or were we all agreed that it really doesn't matter what the House plan puts together because the Biden administration is not going to follow it anyways? The Senate.
Well, it's important in the sense that if the House puts out a plan, and then the president's administration basically gives them the double flip with a half twist, then what it does is it reveals more. Again, I mean, not that the American people doesn't know where this administration stands on immigration, but it's such a glaring flip of the finger to the Republican plan that it would create even more people to get angry and move in a different direction politically.
I think putting this in there I think this is one that they're going to say, okay, McCarthy's not going to agree to it. He's from Bakersfield. He can't agree to it. For those who don't know, Bakersfield, it's where an awful lot of illegal aliens end up finding employment and housing. It's a big farming area.
That's it used to be sharecroppers, like my grandfather, of Irish descent. But now, it's primarily an illegal alien enterprise.
Yeah, so I actually think that's one of those they threw in there just to toss out.
I have a question for Doug.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I ever missed this. Well, obviously I had to have if you'd already said it, but how can a person that's not a representative of any kind be a House Speaker?
Because in the Constitution, it doesn't say that the person has to be a member of the House. What it says, and I'll read it word for word in Article 1, Section 2. As soon as I get
Obviously, I
there.
must have missed that one.
The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers. That's all it says. So it doesn't say that they have to be office holders.
Oh, I get it. So it doesn't say, but it does not say.
All right. So that's up to them. They make the rules on that, and if they want to pick something. Now that said, because and I know the prevailing opinion among certain people is that it ought to be Trump. If, let's say, Donald J. Trump became Speaker and he's not an office holder of the House of Representatives, then he would wield the gavel. He would run the meetings. He would be influential on who's on the committees. He would be influential on the debate, but he would have no vote because he's not an office holder.
Right.
And the Senate has different language. But it's interesting how the House was given so much leeway to create their own internal rules.
Yeah.
I'm not, I've been thinking about that lately. Was that a good idea, or, I guess there's some pros and cons.
Well, they wanted them to be independent enough. They didn't want there to be thoughts that, they were under the control of a federal constitution or a federal executive branch or anything else. So it was just this idea of creating an independence of that particular part of government.
Next bullet point, next check mark: a budget that stops an increase in the debt ceiling and holds Senate accountable. Now, I'm not sure I would have worded it that way. I would have said a balanced budget amendment must be put forth. We were one vote away from the balanced budget amendment passing. In 1999.
Yeah, I think a balanced budget amendment would be a waste of time because you can't reach a balanced budget if you continue to spend unconstitutionally. Therefore, rather than a balanced budget amendment, the amendment should be that all spending must be directly tied to a constitutional authority or something like that.
True legislative purpose.
I know their version of what an authority is, and their interpretation is wacky doodle. So it would be simply words to them, but it would at least be a step in the right direction. Balanced budget amendment doesn't happen. Balanced budget doesn't happen until you get the unconstitutional spending to stop.
Well, that's probably a Article 5 convention topic then.
Yeah,
I think that's more than a congressional plan. I agree with what you're saying. Andrew, now you're making me wonder who is actually typing. That's funny. Jesus. That was funny.
I just thought would be hilarious. Go to Scott McKay or someone else's thing and have a channel called the FBI.
I'm sure people do that kind of trolling. No, what's going on is if I type into the chat from StreamYard, Andrew gave me admin privileges for a StreamYard account who hosts this channel. Right. And I didn't realize it until today. So if I type into the chat from StreamYard, it says I'm the Citizen 1776. If I type in YouTube, it says I'm Warhamster. So I got to make sure which window I'm typing into.
You'll be misrepresenting who you are.
Andrew thinks he's arguing with himself in the chat, and I feel so bad.
I do that anyway. That's funny.
Schizophrenic son of a gun. So, the way I would handle the budget is very simple. The federal government in 2022 knows what their revenues were for the year, and that is their budget for 2023. And Congress gets to vote on what percentage of that money. You have a fixed amount of money they can spend, and some of it's obligated from prior years. Things like pensions, what have you. Some things are legacy spending. So once you carve that out, say 40% of the budget's left is discretionary, and Congress doesn't vote on a dollar amount, but a percentage of the budget that go to each of these entities. You want to talk about wiping out a lot of bad bills. You do it that way. You limit their, look, you've only got $5 billion to spend. Do it however you want, however you fit. We trust you.
Well, did we mention the 16th Amendment? Come on.
Well, we can.
seriously though. I mean, what you said was nice and fantastic, and I'm sure it would work. But you get rid of the 16th Amendment, it's already kind of doing that. I mean,
Well-
the federal government has to go, hey, Mr. States or Mrs. States, or I guess to not get kicked off YouTube, Z States, I think is the, hey, I want to pass all this crazy stuff. Will you pay for it? No. Go rewrite it. And
Okay,
then-
so there's, yeah, you're right, and I agree, Andrew, 100%. But there's two different conversations here. What can Congress do right now, and what could be done at a convention of states? To repeal the 16th takes an amendment. Let's go through the process. To
100%.
put together a congressional budget plan, they can do this. They can make their own rules. Say, look, you can't spend money that hasn't already been earned. No more debt. That's generational theft. It drives me nuts that we inherited a debt. I've been mad about that for 30 years, and I just watched my generation add to it. It's ridiculous what we're doing to the children.
Right.
Think a lot.
So, all right, should we go to the next one?
What's the next one?
Ending emergency funding and all COVID mandates and funding. Well, I hope this isn't a long discussion. Nope, I think we all agree on that one. And the last one of 72 hours to read a bill is kind of already addressed with single subject bills, but it's important because it would have blocked that $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill.
Yeah.
Now, here's one of the things that infuriates me. That $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill was passed by the Senate on Tuesday of last week, or whatever, the week before New Year's. It got to the House on Wednesday. Every single House member, according to the current House rules, can demand that every bill be read on the floor. With 4,400 pages, that would have taken about 4 days. That would have
right before you started speaking, I was going to say exactly that. Keep going. I'm sorry, but I'm just, my head's blowing up because great minds think alike. Go ahead.
Yeah, but nobody, even Matt Gaetz, demanded that to be done. This could have been stopped.
So how about then, instead of a rule, and this is what I was thinking, a rule that says 72 hours to read a bill, how about the rule is the bill must be read on the floor and anyone who votes on it must be present for the entire reading?
Fine by me. You got me. You got my vote right there.
Should we ask Siri what fixes this problem?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd love to see what that little tramp says. I don't let Siri into my house. I mean, we got enough spy devices, but that one's got to be the worst.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't have one. I don't have it either.
Well,
Yeah,
here's the funny thing is I got to the point where it was convenient and I didn't care anymore because you know what? I don't know about you, Brady, but Doug is on a different level as far as the government watching him. But with previous jobs I've had and such like that, like the government watches me. So I don't,
I'm lucky. I'm sure they have no idea who I am or what I think. Yeah, right. Hi, guys. I actually give my FBI observers nicknames. They're not complimentary, so I won't repeat them on air.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's paying attention to me because lately I've been getting advertisements for Viagra, and that's not a problem for me. So,
too much information, Doug.
hey, I don't know why I'm getting those ads. That's my point. So whoever's watching me, they're misunderstanding something.
Well, if you've been paying attention to the Twitter files releases, the FBI and other government agencies were scrolling social media. If anybody said anything problematic, they were flagging you, sending your information in a spreadsheet to Twitter and Facebook and Google and telling you to ban these accounts or shadow ban. That was happening. I mean, small little accounts, just nobody who's just a little ticked off gets their.
Hold on, here's an idea. Hey, Mr. FBI, what should we do as far as ending the emergency funding and the COVID mandates? I'm not gonna lie, it would have freaked me out if they answered.
I take it, Warhamster, that Elvis is in the building.
He is in the building. That's my dog barking in the background. You can hear him.
Is your dog really named Elvis?
Yes, he is.
That actually made that hilarious.
So whenever he takes the dog out potty, people say Elvis has now left the building.
Oh man. Now here's the question: what happened?
Oh, now you guys gonna start?
Hold on, there's a
Jeez.
theory out
They
there.
probably heard Elvis.
Well, there's a theory out there about Elvis, and I'm gonna throw this out there. This is totally a theory. I have no idea. So let's just have fun with this one. But, and I'm not talking about he was abducted by aliens. That I could no.
Actually, I think Grandma's home, but that's the reason why they're barking. But go ahead.
There's a theory out there that he became a government informant or something of that sort in regards to a drug war or something like that back in the 70s. And he had to sell one of his planes and stuff like that or whatever. And someone, after he supposedly died, saw him sitting in the pool house at Graceland. And that he did not die on the toilet eating chicken. So
all I know is my mom has like every Elvis album ever put out, except for 2 of them because they were greatest hits ones that she had all the songs of already, and she cried for 2 weeks when he died. That's all I know about that. I remember when he passed away. I'm old enough to remember that.
Well, for the record, my dog is not named after Elvis Presley.
oh,
He's
Named after a baseball player, right?
Elvis Andrews, the shortstop for the Texas Rangers in 2011, who single-handedly won Game 3 the day before I got him, and I'm still a Texas Rangers fan. And
you set
Elvis,
me up for failure.
but here's where it's interesting: is Elvis is not a Latin first name. Elvis Presley was so popular in South and Central America, it became for like a 10-year period one of the top 3 first names in all of the Spanish-speaking countries because of Elvis Presley.
Well,
That's why you have so many, Hispanic Elvises. It's because of Elvis Presley.
I've never ran into Hispanic Elvis. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh, there's like 5 Major League Baseball players.
I've ran into a lot of Jorge's, Omars, Jesus's, but not once an Elvis.
Yeah, well, look it up. There's like 5 Major League Baseball players from the 80s and 90s that were named Elvis. They're all Hispanic, and that's where it came from.
Hey, look, there's the people stealing trillions of dollars from January 6th.
Yeah, I threw that up there for Tracy.
My wife has now tried.
I'm sorry, Doug. Your volume just cut out. We didn't hear
The
you.
FBI got in. What'd you say?
Yeah.
My wife has been trying to call me 3 times in a row, so I'm gonna. It might be important, so I will be back.
Cool. Mute yourself. We're gonna have to teach him. He doesn't have to leave the room. He can just mute and block the screen. But
All right. So, what do you think about Elvis being a top secret agent?
Well, I'll tell you what. There are an awful lot of people famous people, whether it be actors, entertainers, what have you, that have been involved or approached by the intelligence agencies, and it makes perfect sense because they're talking to important people. They have access, so it's entirely possible. My favorite example, and the guy who I just am fascinated by, is Patrick Byrne today. He's been a cooperating government witness. They actually used him to try to set up Hillary Clinton back in like 2015, and he's talked about this openly. This is a billionaire entrepreneur. If you don't know who Patrick Byrne is, he's the one who founder of Overstock.com. The man is a certifiable genius. I really enjoy watching his mind work. I almost had the opportunity to do a business deal, which would have connected me with him, and I'm very bummed out, not just financially, but for not getting a chance to meet him. But this is a celebrity CEO, tech executive, and the intelligence agencies use people like that. They always have. And you take it back even further. In America, when Hollywood started being built up, it was out of Cleveland, of all places, you had the Italian and Jewish mafia basically took over Hollywood. And a lot of the actors, and then of course the mafia was tied in with the FBI and the CIA. And of course they would use these people as assets. There's a ton of that going on. So I have no evidence that Elvis Presley was an operative or an informant or what have you. but it would make perfect sense. That would totally be consistent with the history.
Yeah. The reason why I laughed, for people wondering, is because every time Doug comes back in, we're always talking about something not anywhere near on topic.
Yeah, like I said, when I'm away, the children open up the wrong toy box. All right.
When the fox
That's not a toy box, kids. That's mom's special items. Get out of there.
When the fox is away, the hamsters will play.
Yeah. Yeah, she basically, her emergency was she's getting off work and I better be ready for when she comes home to go out to dinner.
Well, I hope you guys have a lovely dinner.
And my response was, honey, I made dinner. And she says, what'd you make? And I said, I made baked ziti. And she said, like I said, we're going out to dinner.
Wow.
She's not a fan of my baked ziti, but the grandkids are.
God, baked ziti sounds pretty tasty right now.
Yeah.
I made pollo asado. Yeah, I made pollo asado a couple days ago, so I ate leftovers. But it was good pollo asado.
You can't go wrong. Yeah.
All right.
So
what's going on here? What's going on here on the floor here? Did anybody recognize this guy speaking with a cute little bow tie?
He looks like a contemporary Christian music artist.
That he does.
Or I could be Tucker Carlson's nephew. No, that's not right. Maybe his uncle.
The part that
Tucker Carlson.
Well, Tucker used to wear a bow tie like that. That's the reason why.
Well, somebody.
Well, they're clapping, so we got to figure out who's clapping to figure out if he's a Democrat or Republican or.
I could turn on the volume. I could turn on the volume, but I don't want to shorten our lifespans by doing.
The Democrats are clapping, so I don't care who it is.
This is the comment I was going to make. Is watching these hearings the last few days. It's the way these people clap like trained seals just drives me nuts. It's virtue signal after virtue signal after virtue signal. Yeah, and when they're sitting there talking about Hakeem Jeffries, they give all these platitudes and nothing about his actual qualifications. He had to walk to school as a child. Having to walk to school as a child is not a thing that makes you qualified to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Knock it off of the
well, it's not just that, but I mean, it's not even a good story. Corn Pop's not even in it.
Oh, God. I've got... So I made the case earlier this week that, Corn Pop, someone said Corn Pop was a hero. I go, really? Corn Pop had the opportunity to save the world from an awful lot of evil. He kind of messed it up. The opportunity was there, Corn Pop, and dude, I'm sorry, the guy doesn't make my hero list. I mean, he gave it a good try, but he couldn't handle the mighty wrath of Joe Biden, of young Joe Biden, Mr. Push-Up himself. The beautiful thing about history, Doug, is all these people are eventually going to be exposed because there's going to be people like us 100 years from now, and they're going to read what we wrote, and they're going to understand the truth because it's so self-obvious. It's just amazing that more people can't see the truth in real time, and I think that's one of the saddest commentaries about human history. Is it usually takes a few decades to get the truth out.
Trained seals, exactly right. Here's a question. So I can't be on here much longer. Doug evidently has to throw out some baked ziti.
Yeah. I had the baked ziti, but she wants to go out to eat anyway, so I guess I'm going to eat twice. See, Warhamster, you get on me about my diet. It's stuff like that is the problem.
Well, you can go out to dinner without eating.
Yeah, then she gets mad at me because she feels selfish and she's the only one eating.
Unfortunately, I bored eat. So if I had already eaten and we went somewhere, unless I was feeling really sick, I'd probably just start eating something. I'd that's
my problem. That's my problem.
Now,
earlier, real quick, before you say what you were going to say, you were talking about making your own new video channels, and I had actually thought about this last night while I was driving home from my Carlsbad class. That a channel that would be fun to create would be titled "Make Individual Liberty Fashionable." MILF.
I think we'd get a lot more of those spam blockers. or a lot of those, a lot more of those.
All right, go ahead. You had one more thing.
Oh, well, I was gonna say if Brady wanted to stay on, since he has administrative rights and play this and have commentary, he's more than welcome to if he wants. Because I brought y'all into the Citizen Network. I'm gonna start. I think I'm gonna change the name of the channel to the Citizen Network because I'm starting other shows and stuff like that. And I was thinking, how about, if y'all were to, have your own. Have y'all talked about that or no?
What, having our own network
Or your own show?
Oh, yeah.
We're in the process. We're in the process, and we actually plan to not only have our own program, but to also have a location in addition to these platforms where it is, so that if ever these platforms decided to, I don't know, accuse us of inciting things and killing an episode, it still exists in its true home.
Yeah, Andrew, the answer is we're building a multimedia site for Doug's content, mine, and maybe more, where we have video, our written commentary, and even a message board system. That's coming very soon. We have
now that said, that platform may be also, and we're still figuring this out, accessible by other content creators. Either through our site or through the maker of our platform, that's still in the works. So it might be something that, as you grow and all that, you might want to latch onto. I don't know, down the road. But because content creation and creating an environment where people can be content creators without having to worry, to me, is a big deal.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say y'all could use my channel as a YouTube home for you. And then
you'd lose your channel with some of the stuff I put out.
I don't care.
Yeah, Warhamster actually doesn't even have a YouTube home. His is primarily Rumble. I do have 2 YouTube channels that are mine, and one that I participate on from our friend Ron, who called me the other day, by the way, and I didn't get a chance to call him back yet, but that's beside the point.
Doug, I do have a Warhamster YouTube channel. I just don't put my content on there because it's not worth it.
Right.
But I did. If you go to the Warhamster YouTube channel, it's war_hamster. The few things that are on there are just videos I took of grassroots events, like when we welcomed Joe Biden to Long Beach with me and 10,000 of my closest friends. So that kind of stuff's on there. But the stuff we talk about, when I talk about the origins of the CIA and stuff like that, and the monetary, the history of money and banking. Now that stuff's going to get a strike overnight. I mean, there's just no way to have those conversations without ticking off the YouTube moderators. So,
well, I've already been. I mean, I try to be as constitutional as possible, and I've already been hit with a strike on each of my YouTube. So, but I'm curious about the inciting or glorifying violence one. I mean, what do we do? Say fight for the cause? I mean, God, who knows what triggered them?
I think I've concluded that it did not have Brady on it because I starred my comment on there that said, if you have questions for Doug, I'm in the chat.
So it's all my fault.
So I still have a perfect record.
That though, right? It's all your fault. That's fine.
Hey, I'm always inciting things. That's part of my problem. Or not problem, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I'd love to be a part of y'all's success, definitely, somehow.
Well, and like I said, I don't know the fashion. It's not a matter of being part of our success. That's not the goal here. My thinking is, and I think the person who's creating our platform is kind of the same mindset, is we're tired of having to tippy toe or depend on something like Rumble. There needs to be a community where we're all a part of this community, and we can have our content creation as a part of this community. You can go to a community and that it's not just Rumble where there's people who want saying what they want, but it's people that are liberty minded and saying what they want. It's this community that's open to content creators, and so you as a viewer goes, hey, I want to go there because it's like a network or a community where my peeps are, and I want to hear what they got to say without me having to go searching through, every fifth video is somebody who agrees with me.
Well, Doug,
the downside to that.
Well, I was going to say real quick, Andrew. Doug, that's such a great idea that it already exists in a few different places. In fact, we participate on that on DLive, and there's a few others that are like that. But
yeah, but this one isn't just but what we're doing isn't just a network, though. It's deeper than that.
Yeah, we're taking it another step further, or
Right.
potentially taking it, and that's the conversation I'm going to have with Josh next week. So we'll let's not go any deeper into this right now.
Well, I didn't even mean to if it was.
No, I didn't expose my ace and my king, just my jack and my queen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but the queen's very important. The queen could go everywhere. Well, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how things go. It's always important though to have something on YouTube, just so that way.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna keep my YouTube channels even after I do all the other stuff, and do kind of what I'm doing now. Because what I put on YouTube, I typically also put on Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon, and this will just be another one of those places. But I don't want YouTube to be my flagship anymore. It's going to be one of those other places. I want this new place to be my flagship.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm currently in the transformation for this channel to one day whenever y'all depart, and it'll have its own thing rolling. And Doug, you were not on, but I actually have a second guest for my show, The Biblical Record. So that's lined up at the end of January, and it's a gentleman named Matt Long, and he is of the non-spherical view of the planet.
Okay.
So now what his exact views are, I'm not 100%. I just know a little bit of him, but he is strong as far as he makes a lot of scripture references to back up his point. So I'll be interested. Because and if everyone wants to catch my first episode of that one, I had John Adolphi from the Lost World Museum, and that was interesting. I don't agree with everything that where he stands as far as biblically and other things, but he has some interesting theories that make sense. It just needs some evidence, substance behind it. But that's the whole point of the show is they come on, they bring the alternate, and obviously I will have scripture to go, okay, this that makes sense, or no, you're crazy and you just totally took that out of context or something. So it's not like me versus them, but it's more of I'm trying to get the record straight. So but anyway, that's that. So if anyone wants to check on that, feel free to. And that's just me without Doug or Brady.
Well, I will check it out. I have not done so yet, but I will. You're hitting on some pretty interesting topics, and it's. I wouldn't want to do that show with you because I'm just not well enough read into some of those aspects, but I find it interesting. So I think it's a good idea. Yeah, I think you're onto something. It's a conversation that people will enjoy.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's something that's never taught in schools anymore, unfortunately, and that's a shame. And what do we always talk about, Doug? What is the main cog that needs to be put back into place?
We need to be a republic again. Oh, and there is God, of course.
Yes, there we go.
But it's funny because part of the reason why we're a republic is because we understood that humans have a flawed nature, and that flawed nature comes from Romans. We all fall short of the glory of God. So even we need to be a republic again has a scriptural basis. Now that said, of course, there was heavy Saxon influences, but I like to tell my classes as well, we had heavy Saxon influences when the Christian influences began to bubble up. It turned out they matched the Saxon influences. Now, the Saxons didn't really know much about Christians. They were pagans. When the Bible was being written, it knew nothing. Well, God did, but the people of the time, knew nothing about the Saxons. Yet we have two systems that completely agree. That is nothing short of divine providence.
Yeah. All right, so I got a last question, because unless Brady wants to keep the show going for what's going on with the house, which he's
No, we can wrap it up. We're coming up on 2 hours. Let's go ahead and wrap up.
There's a lot of people, especially lately, that's brought this up, and I thought it was interesting, was of how much of the Freemasons and our founding fathers were together. And it's an interesting.
That's a long show. So rather than answer, I'm going to say we need to dedicate a show just to that. In fact, I've been wanting to write a book about it.
How about next week?
Yeah, I could do that show next week. I've been doing a lot of work on the Freemasons and some of the different branches and versions of it. I am 100% prepared to do that next week. I got some good stuff. Very good. I got some serious good stuff on this one. That's one of the directions I've spent the last couple of months on, and your timing couldn't be better.
Well, all right, very good. Okay, we'll do that then.
Okay. Well, as y'all have heard it here, we are going to be talking about the entanglement possibility of our founding fathers and the Freemasonry. Well, we'll see. But anyway,
secret society.
Go ahead.
I was going to say secret societies in general, but yes, Freemasonry in particular.
Yes. I am Andrew, the Citizen 1776. We have Brady, the War Hamster, and then who's always fashionably late, but we appreciate him anyway.
No, not always, but this was not my fault, I swear. I feel like Han Solo with the Millennium Falcon. It's not my fault. But anyway, go ahead.
And Mr. Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. Everyone, if you feel free to send Doug a watch or a clock, I'll make sure I put a link in. So that way,
hey,
anyway.
you know your friends are truly friends when they start to rib you.
That's 100%. 100%. All right. Well, Doug, sign us off here.
All right. United we stand. Combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Cheers.